How's it going, everyone? You might notice that for once in my life I'm actually wearing a hat, and I figured, walked by this hat this morning, realized, hey, I'm gonna be filming with the Turbo X today, so why not wear this hat? If you're wondering where I got this hat from, quite frankly, I have no idea. It just kind of showed up one day. But as you can tell from the title of today's video, I want to talk about the Turbo X, and specifically, is it worth the, what I'm going to call a price premium that you have to pay when you're buying this car over other 9.3s. So of course this car right off the bat doesn't look like a typical Turbo X, mainly because it has different wheels on it. Of course, one of the easiest ways you can tell what a Turbo X is just by looking at the wheels. They have those specific wheels that are just gorgeous, and of course I swapped them out to piss off all purists out there. So today I'm going to be discussing a few of the reasons why I think that the Turbo X is worth the price premium, and kind of provide some counter arguments to those people who just say, oh, it's just an Aero cross-wheel drive but it's only black, because there are much more differences than that. I mean, mechanically, do they have the same motor? Yes. Do they have the same drivetrain on the 09 cross-wheel drive? Yes, they do. So mechanically, for that 1 year, yes, they are very, very similar cars, but there are countless differences. I'm trying to just think of some of them off the bat right here that we can go ahead and talk about that'll show why this car is different. So in terms of price premium, I can't really give a specific price gap. Like, I can't really say that a Turbo X costs $2,000 more than an Aero cross-wheel drive or an Aero or whatever, because with how rare the Turbo X is, it seems like the market on these seems to fluctuate a bit. At least as I've watched prices in the last 3 years or so. So, you know, there's some fluctuation in the prices, but it comes at enough of a premium that I think that this is worth questioning. I mean, let me put it this way. There was an Aero cross-wheel drive that someone sent me a couple days ago on Instagram that was listed for like $5,000, and it had like 160,000 miles on it. So a Turbo X with that same sort of mileage would not be selling for that. It would probably be selling for, I would think, at least 9. Now that's not to say that a Turbo X is worth double an Aero cross-wheel drive. Again, it's just completely dependent on who's selling the car and when they're buying and all these other things. But with all these unique parts that this car comes with over the Aero cross-wheel drive, now I believe there was an option in the Aero cross-wheel drive called like the Turbo X package, or in later 9.3s called the Turbo X package, where you could get the Turbo X wheels, you could get like the Turbo X bumper and lip on it, and I think that was really about it. Like, you'd also get the carbon fiber trim and everything. But generally speaking, the Turbo X itself just has so many unique parts to it. I mean, I'm looking at two main ones right here. Of course, one, the steering wheel. This Turbo X steering wheel is, well, it's worth a significant amount more than just a standard Aero steering wheel. So it's better for a lot of reasons, you know, outside of it just being more valuable. And then of course you have the gauge cluster. This gauge cluster is unique to only the Turbo X. These seats, I believe, were also part of that Turbo X package, but they of course are also unique to the Turbo X as well. I'm just going to gloss over some of the major ones here, but if you also look, the spoiler that's on the car is also unique to the Turbo X. It's much bigger than the normal Aero spoiler, and it looks really aggressive and mean, and probably one of the most expensive and at least sought after parts on these cars is the exhaust. These exhaust tips are not made anymore. So because it has all these unique parts, and of course it's a much rarer car, which I'll also talk about here more in a minute, it holds its value better than an Aero cross-wheel drive. Now of course a Turbo X from factory didn't cost twice what an Aero cross-wheel drive did, or a normal 9.3. You know, of course it came at a premium and it was only offered for 1 year, but it wasn't ridiculously more expensive. And I think because of this rarity and all these unique parts, and just kind of the name behind it and what it is, it's definitely held its value a lot better. And I don't see these cars getting any cheaper. I mean, I got mine for $8,000, and that was a great price in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And they're not, I don't see them getting any cheaper. Really, the uniqueness of it, I think, and everything that I've kind of talked about is part of the reason why it holds its value better. So if you're looking for a long-term investment when you're deciding between these two, I think the Turbo X is definitely the way to go, because I can only see prices going up. You know, maybe not 6 months from now, but especially down the road as this car gets even older and we lose more and more of them to accidents or just neglect from owners, I expect the values to just slowly start to go up here at some point in the next few years. So now on to rarity, and I want to quickly debunk and discuss something that aero cross-wheel drive owners like to bring up. And you know, I'm not trying to make aero cross-wheel drive owners all seem like bad people, because they're not, but sometimes I don't know how to put it. I just feel like I'm roasting aero cross-wheel drive owners now, but the people who say, oh, your Turbo X is one of 211 manual sedans, oh, that's cool, my aero cross-wheel drive is one of 15, and I'm like, okay. And you know, you see this on Facebook groups all the time, and the people that say this stuff kind of get roasted pretty quickly, but it's one of 15 because with the aero cross-wheel drive, you had probably like 10-15 different colors to choose from. So of course, when you go down to the transmission, the year, the trim, you go to the engine, you go to the color, you go to all these options, of course it's going to be more rare. The Turbo X didn't have, you know, the Turbo X was literally combi, sedan, manual, automatic. Those are the only 4 things. Of course, you have different packages that you could get on your cars, but when you're breaking it down by one of whatever, you only have those 4 things. And of the 600 in the US, again, there's only 600 of them. There's more aero cross-wheel drives than that. I think that just goes to show that it is also a more rare car, and you know, of course, more rare vehicles, generally speaking, are going to come with a higher price tag. It's not always the case, of course, but with something like this, you know, it makes sense. So I apologize for any aero cross-wheel drive owners that might have been offended by this video. That was not my intent at all. But I just kind of wanted to talk about, is the Turbo X worth the price premium? And of course, people in Europe have told me that these trade for way more than what they do here in the US, because the US actually happen to get a lot of these cars relative to a lot of other countries. They're 2000 made in the US, got almost a third of those cars. So I'm curious to know, in other countries where a Turbo X might still cost like 25,000 equivalent US dollars, is it worth the price premium for you guys there? Please leave your thoughts down below in the comments. I'm curious to know what all of you think on this subject matter, and those in the US as well. And you know, we've got a nice plane flying overhead, potentially ruining the audio of this clip. But I think that's it for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. This is a video that I always thought would be just kind of useful for those deciding between a Turbo X or an aero cross-wheel drive, and you're looking at that price difference and wondering, is it really worth it? In my opinion, of course, because I own one, I'm biased, is yes. And I just think it's a cooler car in general. You know, people are like, oh, Turbo X, like that's cool, you know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's a cool car, and I'm really happy to have it. I'm very lucky to have it as well. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. My shadow is just getting in the way for all of these shots, and I'll see you all next time.